Today I have a simple tutorial for you. I will be creating a custom animated progress bar in SwiftUI. It will look like this. I will also create a version where you can define steps. Okay, so this is what we will be building. We are inside of Figma. This is a prototype. As you can see, the design is really simple. We will build two versions of this progress bar. The first one will be with steps. So it's like, as you can see, 2/3 steps. So it's like the second step. And the second one will be the progress, which will start from 0 up to 100%. So it will be the percent progress bar. So it will just going smoothly from 0 to 100%. But we'll start with this one with the steps. So let's jump into the Xcode. Here inside the Xcode, I created a simple project. It is just a boilerplate. And inside the assets, I added all of the colors that we have from the project. If you never tried this, you can add it here and you can add color set. So this is basically all of the colors that we'll be using. What is great about this is that you also get a dark mode for free, basically. You can define also the dark mode version of the color. Okay, let's start. We can remove the P stack, we don't need it. And we can replace it with a ZStack. We need to put first rounded rectangle, and then we need to put second rounded rectangle, which will be on top of the first one. If you are new to SwiftUI, ZStack is basically a stack of views which are on top of each other. Here is the really simple example. You have a rectangle with color. We start with the red color, and you can see that each one of those is like on top of each other. So the first one is red, so it will appear here, and then we are adding next one, and the last one is purple, so this one will be visible. And because of the offset, you can see all of them. We have a ZStack. Let's create a rounded rectangle. So this is this one. Let's add a stroke to it with line width. Okay, this looks much better. This is still too tall, as you can see, but let's continue. Let's add the progress bar and text inside. So because we will be adding the second rounded rectangle with additional text, we also need to add this inside the ZStack because both of those will be on top of each other. So let's add the second ZStack with additional rounded rectangle. And let's fill this one with the color of the progress bar. By the way, instead of the rounded rectangle, you can also use capsule. And the capsule is a little different. As you can see, it is a equivalent of the rounded rectangle, where the corner radius is chosen a half the length of the rectangle's smallest edge. So it is like a little different from our design, so we will not be using capsule, but it's like a viable choice. For example, if you always want to have the same corner radius, but the height can change. Let's also add the text for this one. Right now it can be fixed like this. Let's make it white. Add some padding. So here is our text. And now we need to change it or add this another rounded rectangle with this color. What we can do here is add a background to the text. And let's fill it with a circle color. Okay, it starts to look like our design, although the size is still way off. Let's start with our progress bar. So this one. Let's add some padding because we need this little padding here to match. And let's add a frame because we eventually need to change the frame or the width of the progress bar so we can see the progress. Right now, let's set this width to the fixed value, but we'll be changing this. So this value, the width, will be changing and it will show our progress. Right now, as you can see, everything is centered by default. If you will not specify, the SwiftUI will center everything, which is yeah, good, but in this case it will not work as we expect. And let's add this one, the fixed size. The fixed size is, it fixes this view as its ideal size. I know that this is a little enigmatic and does not tell much, but the fixed size is trying to fit your view to the ideal size, and it will work differently for different cases in different scenarios. So you have to be aware that not always putting the fixed size will fix your issue. So in this case, when we put the frame with the width and apply this modifier, the fixed size, it actually changes it and we have the actual width of this. So this is what we eventually want to do. This is what we need. And the height is adjusted to the biggest element here inside this ZStack. So if we, for example, remove the text, you will see that it collapsed. So it is, I think, equivalent of the intrinsic size of the UI kit. I'm not sure if this is the case for the SwiftUI, but it looks like it works like this. Okay, let's add the fixed size to this ZStack, the first one. But instead of adding this fixed size, we will add the second one, which is also applying the size, the ideal size of the view, but for the specified dimension. So we can choose the horizontal or vertical. In this case, we don't want to set this for the horizontal, so it will be false, and for the vertical, it will be true. So cool, this one. Here, as you can see, we also adjusted the height. Now what we need to do is to change this center, because as you can see, everything is centered. Inside the ZStack documentation, there is this really nice example. For me, the alignment of the ZStack was a little weird at first, but when you will check the example, it is much clearer. Let's paste this here. And let's switch this one, content view. So this is this ZStack, because we don't have, we have just like those ZStack. We should put this inside the VStack in order to see them both. Actually, let's do this. We will need the VStack anyway when we'll add additional button to actually start our progress. Let's make it here. So we have right now two of them at the same view. So we have the ZStack, and what the alignment is doing is that it will align them, those elements, those rectangles, to the bottom leading. And as you can see, the first one is red, so it is here. Because if it's first, you cannot see this because the blue one is covering it. But the first one, the rectangle, is here, this one. And the second one is blue, which is this one. And what is doing, the bottom leading, so it will align it this way. So it will start with this one, or it will align it basically like to the left. If you will change this to like bottom trailing, as you can see, the blue one is pushed to the right. If we will change this to trailing, you can see that it will center the red one, because as I said, by default, SwiftUI is trying to like center everything. So this one is trailing, and we can change to leading. So as you can see, inside the ZStack, we can also use the alignment, and this is what we will be using. So let's add the alignment for the first one. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. And let's add alignment to the first ZStack. So this one will be leading. We can remove this one. And as you can see, it is pushed to the left. So this is what we want to do. And the second ZStack, let's add the alignment to trailing. So in this case, our text will go to the right side. So here we have the rounded rectangle, which is yellow, this one, and it is filling the whole ZStack here because we are applying frame for this ZStack. If you are not sure how this works, you can always add, for example, border, and it will be like more visible and more clear what is the frame of this ZStack or any other stack or view. Let's remove this. So our basic view is done. We can also add a little padding to this, so it will look a little better. What we eventually would like to do is to basically create a component from this, but this is just a sample. And if you will use this as a component, you definitely would like to get rid of this padding. But let's keep it here because it looks a little better in the simulator. Now what we want to do is change this width because we need to make this dynamic. So in order to do this, let's get the width of this view. To do this, we will use the geometry reader. It will allow us to get the size of the view. Inside this first ZStack, let's add geometry reader. Inside the geometry reader, let's create another rounded rectangle, but this one will be actually hidden. Let's add the foreground color to clear, so it will be invisible. And on appear, we will get the width of this ZStack. So basically our container width. So let's create a variable for this. Let's store this value inside the variable. And let's use it. So here inside the container view, we have the width of our ZStack. So in order to actually get our progress, we need to get the width of the whole container and divide this by the goal and multiply by the step. So let's create a variable which will be set as a width of this frame. So we need to get the container width, which is the size of this ZStack, and then we need to divide this by our goal. Let's create actually the goal, because here is 3, but we want to make this a little more dynamic. So we need additional variable. And also let's create state variable, which will be the step which will be changing. And we are starting from 0. And as I said, if you will create a component from this, you would like to have like those injected or like initialized. So we could change the goal, and you can also like start with different step. But here we have just an example. So we have goal 3 and step is starting from 0. So now let's divide this container by the actual goal. And this needs to be CG-float. So let's convert this to the CG-float. And then let's multiply this by the step. And just in case, if, for example, if you are creating a component or you will miss the step and the step will be greater than the goal for some reason, let's add this and let's get the minimum value. So it will be either this, or if it will exceed this size, let's create this container view. So if for some reason this will be greater than our container view, we will get the minimum of those two, which is the container view. So it will guarantee that this progress bar will not exceed our container view, so it will not exceed our ZStack, because we will be putting this as a width. So it could happen if you, for example, have more steps than actually is. So if the steps is greater than the goal, should not happen because we also add a guard here, but just in case. Let's use it. As you can see, it broke, but let's change the step. So this works, although if we will set it to 0, it will break, which we don't want. And the reason is that we are using width here, and what is better because we are providing this like as a maximum width of this progress bar. What we want to do here is to put this as a minimum width for this one. So the ZStack will have the minimum width of our maximum width of this progress bar, which is this one. But when we have just a width and we are starting from 0, it will be 0 basically, so it will disappear. When we put this as a minimum width, it will start growing later when we will change the step, but still we will be able to fit our text. So that's why we need to change the width as a minimum width in order to actually show our first step, which is like the 0. Let's add additional variable because we also need to present this progress. So let's create this progress, this state variable. And for the onAppear, let's create our initial state. So it will be our step and the goal. And now let's actually use this. So as you can see, we have the 0. When we change the step, it will change also. So now we have the steps, it works. Now let's add a button and the animation and see how this one will work. Let's add the button below here. So we have the VStack and this one is like our first ZStack. So below this one, let's add a button. Let's change this one and add a color here and add the color of the circle that we are using. Okay, that's much better. So as I said previously, we need to add a guard here because we will each time we will hit start, we will iterate on the step. And we don't want the step to be greater than a goal. So like this. So let's iterate on the step. So each time we'll push the start, we will add 1 to the step. We also need to update the progress title. Actually, we could change this. The progress title could be just a computed variable like this one, and we could just put this here inside the computed variable. So each time we'll change the step, it will also change this progress title. But when we'll add, you will see this in a second, because right now it works. As you can see, we are adding the steps and it works as expected. But what I was saying is that if you will put this inside the animation block, we'll just do in a second, and the progress title would be the computed variable, it will also animate. And this is something that we don't want to do because it will be animated by the SwiftUI and it is changing this in a way that I didn't want to do. So yeah, let's add the animation here. We can simply add the with animation block to the step like this and just put the step here. So now when we will run it, as you can see, we are animating this. If we will put the progress title also inside the animation, this is the case that I was just talking about. So if we would create this as a computed variable, which will be much easier and better, but see what will happen. This is something that, yeah, maybe you like it, but I don't, so I didn't want to put this inside the animation because for me it doesn't work like expected. I don't like it. So yeah, let's go back. You can also change the animations and add the duration, so it would be a little longer. Yeah, much better. Right now I am inside the Xcode 14, and if you haven't seen it yet, there's this additional options that you can use. For example, we can change the scheme color And you can see we are also getting basically for free the dark mode because of the colors that we used here inside the assets. So it also works, the dark mode. Yeah, let's turn this off. Now let's create the second version, which will use the percentage. First, let's add our progress, which we will be using. Let's make it double. We could use like half of the percent, but let's change the title of the progress title. Let's use our progress. And if this will be like a component, you also would like to init this with like a start progress, because it's not always will start from the 0. But here we are just like using our initial as a 0. Okay, this doesn't look good. let's change this to like end. Okay, so let's remove this and let's start with, when we'll start the progress, let's start with 0. Okay, let's create that task because we would like to add some delay for each step. And let's create a loop. So from 1 to 100. And let's add a little delay, as I said. Because we are in the latest Xcode 14, we can use the new one, sleep with until, advance by, and let's add a couple of milliseconds, like 50. So now let's update the progress title. We just need the value of the I with the percentage. So the idea is that after starting, we will have the background task, which will start the loop from 1 to 100. We'll be iterating over the I. So it will be changing the title. As you can see, we are changing the title. And because the title is changing, it will look that our progress, our rounded rectangle is like changing a little bit, bouncing. What we can do here is change our text to monospace. It will look a little better. So it is not bouncing that. It will also like change and grow because the size is changing, but it will not be bouncing that much. Okay, let's get back and let's change the actual progress bar. So now let's calculate the progress, which will be our container width divided by 100 because we are using 100% and multiply by the value of the I. So let's get the container width, divide this by 100 and multiply by the I. Let's cast this to double. The whole expression needs to be double or float, because when we're dividing by 100% and we'll change it to int, we could lose some of the precision. So it will, for example, like stop here. Okay, and right now let's change the max value, and here we basically need the progress and the container width. And the progress needs to be, of course, double. Okay, let's start this. Okay, cool. I'm not sure if you saw it, it's like a little choppy. Let's add animation to the progress as we did in the previous one. And let's start it. Yeah, as you can see, it is much smoother. Here, of course, the task sleep is just to present like how the progress will actually work, like the animation will work. In the real application, you just put the real value, the real data inside the progress. So this progress bar will actually represent the real progress that you have inside the application. But yeah, you can see the animation. And at the beginning, as you can see, it's like not moving, but that's because we have this additional circle, which is at the beginning not moving, it is here. So it is just covering the beginning of the animation. Let's actually remove this background so you can see how this will work. So we are here. Okay, because of the text, we are still not starting from zero. Let's remove the whole text actually. And as you can see, we are starting from zero and it is moving. That's all what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.